saying, I just found it interesting that Biden's being Biden's being an extremist, and it turns out you all are writing about it now. Kind of fascinating. I think the context is that whether or not they're pulling back from Fallujah, and from the Kherson, the city of Kherson.
This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Thursday morning. Let's talk about some news. And what a day of news it was yesterday. My God, we had the midterms. We had Kherson. And we had all kinds of other things happen yesterday that I just couldn't get to. I just couldn't report on. And before I get to the midterms and Kherson, just to do a follow-up on those two stories, let's talk about the stories that I couldn't talk about yesterday because time did not permit. The first big story is the crypto crash. The crypto collapse. Bitcoin hit 16,000 USD. Now it's starting to inch up again, but boy, did crypto crash and did Bitcoin crash. And this was due to the fact that FTX, which is, I believe it's the second largest exchange in the world, the second or the third largest crypto and Bitcoin exchange in the world, well, they went belly up. That's it. Kaput. Finito. No mas. FTX was supposed to get bought out and bailed out by Binance, which is the biggest crypto exchange in the world. But after Binance did some due diligence and looked a bit deeper into FTX's books, they saw that FTX has an 8 billion, that's billion with a B, hole in their balance sheet. And from what I understand, this whole Binance said, forget this, we're out of here. They said, we're out of here. We can't fix this. But from what I understand, this hole is due to the fact that the FTX founder, and I believe he's CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, I believe is his name. He goes by the initials SBF. That's what they call him. Anyway, this guy, he's like he was, a young crypto rock star. I don't know how much of a rock star he's going to be now, but this guy was supposedly, allegedly, this is what was going on. He had FTX. They were doing great as an exchange, but he also had a bunch of other ventures. One of those ventures was Alameda Capital, and he had all kinds of other businesses. And they were investing in crypto projects, and they were creating their own blockchains. I don't know, just doing all kinds of other stuff. And from what I understand, he was using the money from FTX, the money put into FTX in order to trade, to exchange Bitcoin and crypto. And he was using that money in order to fund his other ventures and his other projects. And when the investments from those other projects also went belly up or did not do so well, he was unable to get the money back to FTX. Something like that happened. I may be a little off on some of the details, but I think that's pretty much the general summary, the gist of things. And now FTX is no more, or is going to be no more. And Binance couldn't bail them out. Crypto crashed. It was a massive collapse for Bitcoin as well. Stocks did not do too well either, and that would have been a huge story. That would have been my lead story on any other day. But midterms and Kherson, well, they eclipsed the FTX crypto debacle. So there was that yesterday. Wow, what a crazy day. There was the fact that Serbia applied for an IMF loan to the tune of $2.4 billion. And the fountain now is starting up again, but I'll deal with that noise in post-production of this video. I'll try to deal with that noise in post-production of the video. But Serbia, $2.4 billion IMF loan, that is not a good sign. Now Vucic, I think it was Vucic, he came out with a statement, or someone in the Serbian government high up came out with a statement and said, Serbia's economy is resilient and all is good, but we need this money. If your economy is doing good, if your economy is resilient, why would you go to the IMF to take 2.4 billion in loans, knowing that the IMF, when they provide money, they have all kinds of strings attached to the loans. Most of the times it's about austerity, and you have to sign up to some sort of IMF austerity package, which is like drinking poison in order to cure the patient. Greece went through IMF austerity, and it was not pretty. It was like a 15-year ordeal, which left the Greek economy in tatters, I tell you. But it was not good. It was not good at all. And the Greek economy is a shadow of what it used to be before it went to the IMF and got the loans. But in Serbia's case, I imagine, they're going to provide some sort of austerity package for this loan if everything goes through and everything's approved. But I imagine the other thing that the IMF is going to do is that they're going to place certain political and geopolitical pressures on Serbia. We know that the EU is putting all kinds of pressure on Serbia with regards to ditching Russia, sanctioning Russia, and getting on board with the EU globalist agenda. I imagine the IMF being part of the globalist EU collective West architecture. I imagine that they're going to do much of the same with regards to Serbia, and they're also going to put pressure on Serbia in other ways. They're going to put pressure on Serbia to place sanctions on Russia and to ditch the aspirations that Serbia may have with some sort of future with BRICS or the SCO or anything like that. They're going to look to fully move Serbia into the globalist camp. And, Serbia's, to no fault of its own, Serbia is very much a victim of the European Union's sanctions on Russia. And a lot of this is due to geography, something that Serbia simply cannot control. Being where it is and not having access, without having to go through EU member states, having access to Russian commodities, oil and gas, and even access to the sea. Serbia is kind of stuck. They're at the mercy of Van der Crazy's idiotic sanctions against Russia, and it's affecting the Serbian economy. This is just, it's a combination of EU stupidity and geography. But there we are. Serbia now has to go to the IMF to get money. So those were some big stories that I just didn't get a chance to report on yesterday. So let's do an update with the midterms. We're getting a clearer picture of what's going on. It does look like the Republicans are going to get the House, though not in the huge wave that everyone was expecting. A win, but not a huge, massive win. Okay. In the Senate, we are in a holding pattern. We have to wait and see what's going to happen in Georgia with the runoff. We're going to have to wait and see what's happening in Arizona. Arizona is a big state that has had trouble counting their votes. To say the least, to be very diplomatic, Arizona has had quite a bit of difficulty counting up all the votes in the election, and they're taking their time, and it looks like it's going to take another day or two to sort out what's going on in Arizona. But Blake Masters, Mark Kelly, that's the vote that everyone is looking at. If Blake Masters wins, then it looks like the Republicans will eke out maybe a one-person majority in the Senate. If Blake Masters loses, then we have to wait for the runoff in Georgia, I believe, and that'll give us the picture as to where things stand in the Senate. And then, of course, you have the big race for governor with Kari Lake, and it looked like Kari Lake was losing yesterday, but in my video update that I made in the morning, I said that I'm pretty confident that Kari Lake will pull it out. I lived in Arizona. I'm pretty familiar with the state, and the fact that Maricopa and other counties had still not reported, I knew that those were big population centers, and we would have to wait for those votes to come in. And it looks like that is indeed what has happened. Those votes are starting to come in, and they're starting to be counted. And sure enough, it looks like Kari Lake is pulling ahead, but it's not a done deal yet. But if that does happen, then that is a good win for the Republicans in Arizona. So all in all, I would say that the elections are shaping up to be between an okay and a good result for the Republicans. Not great, not super, not awesome, not amazing. Good, okay. It's like, how was that burger that you ate yesterday? It was okay, it was good. Nothing great. It was good. That's, I think, the best way to sum up the elections for the Republicans. And for the Democrats, to be honest, for the Biden White House, I would say that this was a really, really good result for the Biden White House. He came out pretty much unscathed, and he's going to continue to do what he's been doing. That's the message that the Biden White House is going to take away from these election results. Unfortunately, but that is what's going to happen. So 2 more years of the Biden wrecking ball. 2 more years of the Biden wrecking ball. Oh well, those are elections. That's what the American people voted for. That's what the whole world is going to get. Let's do an update on Kherson and what's going on there. Some quick news. It looks like Ukraine is now putting together the resources and the troops to make a play at Zaporozhye as well, specifically to take over the Zaporozhye power plant. As I said in my video yesterday, this is going to be expected, that with this retreat from Kherson, that Ukraine is going to now, they're going to get emboldened. And they're going to say, why stop at Kherson? Let's look at Zaporozhye and let's try to chalk up another win. So we're getting reports that the Ukraine military is going to make a move on Zaporozhye. We are getting reports that the withdrawal of Russian troops is happening in a very orderly manner, and that is taking place as we speak. And one of the reasons that the Russians were bringing in reinforcements to Kherson, equipment, reinforcements, and it looked like they were building up defensive lines in order to prepare for the defense of Kherson. It looks like that all of the reinforcements and everything that was being brought into Kherson was being brought in there in order to provide the defense for the orderly withdrawal of troops. In other words, Russia was preparing for this withdrawal, or the possibility of this withdrawal, and what they did is they created the fortifications and the cover, so that when the troops are withdrawn, they're able to defend against any type of Ukrainian attacks on the withdrawing forces. So it looks like this was very well prepared, this withdrawal, and it was not, and everything that was being moved into Kherson was not so much being moved in there in order to prepare for the defense, but it was being brought in there in order to provide the defensive cover for an orderly and safe withdrawal of Russian troops. I am getting some feedback from many people in Russia. This is anecdotal, but I am getting feedback from people in Russia who are basically messaging me saying that they understand why this was done. It may not be the best of outcomes, but the Russian people understand why Surovikin made this decision. And many Russians now, with the mobilization, they have co-workers, family, friends, acquaintances they know people who are fighting in this war or involved in this war in one way or another, and they understand and appreciate the fact that Surovikin is putting the lives of Russian soldiers and Russian citizens above territory. And once again, this is anecdotal, but it does look like inside Russia, for the most part, I'm not saying everywhere, Putin is going to get a lot of criticism, no doubt about it. But for the most part, it looks like Russians understand why this was done. Doesn't mean that they have to like it, that this was done. Doesn't mean that they have to like it, but they understand why it was done. It all goes back to Surovikin's statements where he said we may have to make difficult decisions. Margarita Simonian, the editor of RT, she also came out with a statement yesterday, and she said that this was being talked about for a while, and this was a difficult decision, but soldiers' lives above all else, and it's understandable why this was done. And so, you know, this shows that a lot of the command, the military command, high-level officials in the Kremlin, high-level media officials as well, everyone is in support of this decision. At least publicly, they are all coming out and saying, we support the move that Surovikin and Shoigu have made. And I do believe for Kadyrov, someone who I believe, if he was not in support of this decision, would come out and say it. The fact that he did come out and say that this was the right thing to do, I think that speaks volume, because Kadyrov, if he didn't like this, he would have said as much. So that is what's going on in Kherson. And there's one more thing that I wanted to mention about Kherson, some food for thought. Perhaps one of the factors for Surovikin to finally make the decision to move troops from the west to the east was the fact that a week ago, the Ukraine military, US HIMARS missiles, did a lot of damage to the dam. So they really hit that dam hard last week, and they did a lot of damage. And I wonder if Surovikin and the Russian command saw what happened to the dam, and they said, you know what? If Ukraine gets a couple of more, if they sneak through a couple of more missiles to hit the dam, then we're going to have flooding and a really big problem. So best to move forces and equipment out now, just in case they do manage to hit that dam. And now I imagine that striking at that dam becomes useless. I imagine. I'm not so sure there, but my thinking would be that the dam now is not a target for the Ukraine military. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm just thinking maybe that was one of the factors that played into Surovikin's calculus. What else do we have? A lot of talk about the Minsk III thing. A lot of talk about the Minsk III, and perhaps Sullivan and Russia came to some sort of deal. If Russia had not had the referendum with Kherson, so that Kherson was Russian territory under the Russian constitution, I would have said that the Minsk III idea, that there's some sort of peace, some sort of negotiation or ceasefire between Russia and the US, where Russia is going to say everything east of the Dnieper, in this area, east of the Dnieper is going to be Russian, everything west, including this part of Kherson, goes to Ukraine. I would have said that that's a possibility, because I have heard reports that perhaps the deal says Kherson for Donetsk and Lugansk. If this territory wasn't now part of the Russian Federation, I would have said, yeah, that might be something that happened. But the fact that this is Russian territory prohibits Russia from making such deals. So I don't think a Minsk III is in play, though. You know, anything is possible, but I just don't see it, given the fact that Russia has declared this territory as Russian. We also have the report about the drones, the U.S. drones, the Gray Eagle drone, and the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Biden administration is refusing to supply this drone to Ukraine. The U.S. administration has refused to supply Ukraine with the Gray Eagle MQ-1C drones requested by Kiev. Wall Street Journal reports this is because Washington fears an escalation of the conflict, according to the publication. Such a decision could indicate that the United States is transferring weapons to Ukraine, with which it is possible to strike at Russian territory. In addition, Washington is afraid of the inept use of such drones. They can be intercepted and then get manufacturing technologies. The information was confirmed to the publication by the manufacturer of drones, General Atomics. I guess that's the manufacturer of this Gray Eagle, I don't know. Anyway, yes, it has nothing to do with fear of escalation. Nothing to do with fear of escalation. I think that's BS. If you believe that the U.S. doesn't want to transfer drones to Ukraine because they fear that the situation is going to escalate, well, then I have got, what do I have? I have a Greek lamppost to sell you. If you believe that, I have got a Greek lamppost to sell you. This has nothing to do with escalation. I believe this has to do with the other part of the Wall Street Journal article, which is that it's going to be manned by inept, untrained Ukraine military personnel, and perhaps the U.S. hasn't gotten around to moving trained U.S. or NATO troops to Ukraine yet so that they can man the drones. That's one thing. And I think the more important revelation, the more important truth as to why the drones are not going to be supplied to Ukraine is that they are afraid that the drone is going to be shot down, which it inevitably will be. And the Russians are going to, they're going to say, look at these drones. Well, what can we do here? What can we learn about this tech? But even more importantly, I believe that the military-industrial complex, it is a business, a big business, perhaps the most important business in the United States. And I think that some of these companies, a lot of these companies, especially when it comes to things flying in and around Russian airspace, get very nervous because Russia has the best air defense systems in the world. And I imagine they don't want their drones performing badly. They don't want their drones getting picked off by Russian air defense. That would make for bad business. That would be bad marketing. It would not look good in the marketing brochures and pamphlets that the MIC passes around in order to sell their equipment. Anyway, that's why I believe they're not going to be supplying these drones. I don't think it has to do with escalation. Not at all. Escalation, lamppost. If you believe in the escalation, grab yourself a Greek lamppost. Let's see here. Do I have a final story? I think I have a big story, but I just don't remember it. And I've got two clown worlds. Let me just do a quick look here. Of course, the big story of the day, G20. The fact that Putin will not be going to the G20 in person. Actually, Lavrov is going to go. And this is taking place on the 15th and the 16th in Indonesia. We were led to believe, everyone thought that Putin was going to show up, though the Kremlin never did state that Putin will go there in person. We have to be fair. The Kremlin said, we're still examining everything. Russia is going to be there, but we don't know if Putin's going to be there in person. Maybe he's going to make a video statement. Maybe we'll send someone else. So the Kremlin never said that Putin is going to go in person. They just said that Russia will attend and Putin will make an appearance in one form or another. Well, we have the confirmation that Putin will not be attending the G20. By the way, China has still not confirmed either. Xi Jinping has still not confirmed his in-person participation at the G20, which is interesting. Let's wait and see if Xi Jinping does confirm that he's going to go there in person. Let's wait and see. But anyway, Lavrov is going to be representing Russia at the G20. Lavrov is a rock star, a superstar. There's no one more capable to represent Russia in any venue than Lavrov, and he's used to it. He's used to traveling around and representing Russia, even in hostile environments. We all remember his trip to the United Nations, where he was greeted with a lot of hostile forces, a lot of hostility, but he went there and he was the boss. People were lining up to shake his hand and take photos with him. So Russia's going to be very well represented at the G20, but there's always a but. But I have to say, in my opinion, this doesn't look too good for Putin to not go there in person, because what the Kremlin cited with regards to Putin not going to the G20 is they said that they don't want to cause any disruptions and any trouble, not for the hosts and not for Putin himself. So they're basically saying, look, if Putin shows up, it's going to be all kinds of madness for the host nation. They're going to have to deal with all kinds of dinners being canceled, and all of these G7 leaders, you know, Bidenopoulos and Ursula and Macron and Schultz and Sunak, they're all going to be throwing a little fit and saying, I don't want to have dinner with Putin. I don't want to have a photo with Putin. Wow, wow, wow. No photo, no dinner. And they're going to be crying like little spoiled kids. And so, you know, Trudeau and Schultz, you know, Justin, you idiot. Don't go to dinner with Putin, you idiot. Oh, okay, Olaf, I thought you said go to dinner with Putin. I didn't understand, you know. Your accent is very thick, and sometimes I just get confused. Justin, you idiot. I said boycott the dinner, not go to the dinner with Putin. So they want to avoid all of that, right? And so that's one of the reasons why they say Putin is not going to go, so that the event is a little bit smoother for the host nation. But another reason they said they don't want to attend is because Putin's going to be treated as a pariah by these guys, right? And it looks like the Russians just don't want to deal with it. You know, they're just like, whatever. We don't want to deal with Putin giving a speech and then having all of them stand up and walk out. And you know, when we do have dinners or events and everyone's in the same room, they're going to try to make Putin sit at a table in the corner, or when we take the photo, if and when we take the photo, they're going to try to make Putin stand at the edge or stuff like that. They did it to MBS actually in 2018 after the whole Khashoggi thing. They had a G20 and they made MBS kind of take the photo. He was all the way at the edge, and they kind of isolated him there. And they also did it to Putin. They did it to Putin in 2000, I want to say 15. After Crimea, I believe. It was either a G20 or at that time it was a G8 maybe, but I think it was a G20, and they made Putin like actually sit at a table in the corner during one of the dinner events when they're all sitting at these round tables, and they made Putin sit like all the way at the edge, you know, kind of the cool kids, right? The cool G7 kids made Putin sit at the edge of the cafeteria, stuff like that. Just really silly high school, bratty, spoiled stuff like that. And so, you know, that's another reason why the Kremlin is saying Putin's not going to show up. I just think it's, in a way, I understand it, and I understand that Russia probably could not care less about the G20 anymore, or not as much. I don't want to say they don't care at all. Not as much about the G20 as they used to. It'll be interesting to see if Xi Jinping does go in person. If he does go in person, okay. If he doesn't go in person, that may mean that there's some sort of coordination, or they're both on the same page with regards to the importance of the G20. China and Russia kind of signaling that the G20 is a thing of the past. We're going to be creating new events, institutions, organizations, and stuff like that. But there is the one side of it where it makes it look like Putin is being bullied out of attending the G20. And I know that people are going to be upset when I say the word that Putin is being bullied to go, but it's kind of like, you know, it's like you're giving them what they want. You know, they're telling you you're not going to show up. We don't want you to show up, and you're kind of saying, okay, I won't show up. That's it. I don't think it's a big deal at the end of the day. It's not such a big deal. Zelensky's going to give a video appearance, and he said that if Putin shows up, he's not going to give his video appearance. Once again, why the G20 is even having Zelensky speak is a mystery. You know, this is the G20. These are the 20 best economies, not the 20 worst economies. So there's that. But anyway, that's an update with the G20. All in all, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But, you know, it would have been good if Putin went in person. I think it would have been telling the G7 countries, you know, I'm here, and, you know, you guys aren't going to prevent me from traveling to where I need to travel. And then, of course, maybe there's a security issue. That may be something that we don't know. Maybe there are certain security issues where they feel like this is a risk to have Putin travel at this time. Anyway, I would have preferred the Kremlin to have said something along the lines of Putin is not going to go to the G20 because not so much connected to making the hosts feel uncomfortable or causing ruptures or discontent in the meetings and stuff like that. But Putin's not going to go to the G20 because he's got to stay in Russia to oversee things with regards to the special military operation. I think that would have been a better reason, rather than he doesn't want to go because he knows it's going to cause all kinds of issues if he shows up there. Anyway, let's do a quick clown world. And this clown world it's a two-part clown world with the elections in the US. The first part is a video from MSNBC where they are actually saying that Fetterman should consider the presidency of the United States. Why not? Why not? I mean, Biden became president. What's to stop Fetterman? I mean, the collective West, in terms of leadership, they're just evolving to the point where you just don't even need the presidents and the prime ministers to speak. It's just not even important anymore to be well spoken and to debate and give good speeches and have coherent thoughts and all of these things. You just don't need it anymore. Let social media, let the mainstream media, let artificial intelligence. They can do all the talking. Now you just need a guy in a suit or a guy in a hoodie, and you can make them president. I mean, that's where we're heading towards. So anyway, here's the video of MSNBC.
Fetterman as a nominee at some point for president. I know there's some variables, obviously, just a few. But I just, what he did in the super red, deep red parts of Pennsylvania, and the way that he ran ahead of Biden, as you were saying, ran ahead of Trump. I mean, it just makes you wonder about his future.
So there you have it, Fetterman as president. Why not? I mean, it's clown world, isn't it? Up is down, left is right. Fetterman is president. Biden is president. All right. The other clown world, also connected to the elections, is courtesy of Robert Barnes and their locals channel, their locals community, the Viva Barnes community. If you're not part of that community, definitely join up and be part of a fantastic community on locals. And this is where this clown world is coming from. And it is about an election where you had former state representative Tony DeLuca, who died October 9th, rest in peace, brought in the most votes to win the 32nd legislative district, which includes Oakmont, Verona, Plum, and most of Penn Hills. He defeated Quinia Livingston of the Green Party with 82% of the votes. There were no Republicans on the ticket. Because DeLuca won, the seat will remain vacant until the Department of State sets a special election date after state legislators are sworn in. This is a special election in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, everybody. Since we were talking about Fetterman, who's going to be the new senator of Pennsylvania, not only do you elect Fetterman as a senator, you elect a guy who passed away on October 9th to Congress, right? Yeah. The process would be similar to the special election held earlier this year when Ed Gainey vacated his seat in the 24th district to become the mayor of Pittsburgh. All right. Yeah. Some strange stuff going on in Pennsylvania, man. Some strange stuff going on. Anyway, that is the clown world. That is the video, guys. The Duran.locals.com. Go to the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code GOOD DAY. Take care.